New Thought Media Network and the Universal Joy Center are proud to bring you The Joy Show. One voice, one story, infinite inspiration. Join your host, Barbara Jean, every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time or 1 p.m. Mountain Time. Tune in live or watch anytime on youtube.com/@UJOYC. The Joy Show with Barbara Jean. The perfect way to get inspired on Friday afternoons. Only on New Thought Media Network. And please like, share, and subscribe. And now, let's join Barbara Jean on The Joy Show.
Good afternoon and welcome to The Joy Show. I'm so delighted that you're here. Well, today, The Joy Show is me again. Yes, The Joy Show. Joy stands for just one you. The fact that each and every one of us is born unique and special, and that is highlighted throughout this programming. So I'd like to start with the land acknowledgement, and I wish to acknowledge that the land on which I am now seated, for thousands of years it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. We honor the enduring presence, wisdom, and stewardship of Indigenous people, past, present, and emerging. And as we gather online, we honor the many Indigenous nations and territories across Turtle Island, from which members of our community are joining us this afternoon. Today, this meeting is still the home to many meeting places, still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to work and play on this land. Miigwech. All righty, well, let's get to it. Today's topic is trusting the next step. Sometimes we get a little nervous when things are changing and there's something else that's got to happen. But today's show is really about celebrating the truth that each one of us is moving forward. And how we move and the way we do it, completely unique to us. So we begin to live from truth, something extraordinary happens, and joy becomes possible in ways we'd never imagined. So trusting the next step. So we're not talking about the whole staircase, not the entire life plan, not not the entire future that's, maybe coming, but just the next step. Because if we're honest, that's often where life feels most uncomfortable. We want certainty, we want guarantees, we want to see the entire path laid out before us before we begin walking. But, well, we know life doesn't really work that way, does it? I mean, maybe occasionally, but not often. So most of the time, we're being invited to move forward one step at a time. And the spiritual invitation is this: can we trust the step we cannot yet see? Interesting. So you don't need to see the whole path, just trust the next step. So when we're moving along one step at a time, life is sort of putting obstacles in front of us or pathways in front of us, and we have a choice as to what we're paying attention to. And if we're paying attention to the open path ahead of us, we will begin to create harmoniously with the universe. When we bump up against something that's stopping us or blocking us or slowing us down, that's when it's time to take a look. Maybe the next step should be to the right or to the left rather than straight ahead. Okay, we want to pay attention to those things. So knowing that our life unfolds one step at a time, think about the most meaningful things in life. I mean, most meaningful things happen not all at once, but gradually. A relationship begins with one conversation. A new direction begins with one decision. A transformation begins with one thought. So we often imagine that people who seem confident or successful somehow knew exactly where they were going and what they were doing. But when you talk to them honestly, you discover something else. Most of them were simply trusting the next step, trusting the next step. Not because they were fearless, but because something inside them whispered, move forward, move forward. That whisper, that quiet inner knowing, is something every one of us has. Now, some traditions call it intuition, some call it spirit, some call it inner wisdom. And whatever name we give it, it is that inner compass that gently guides our lives forward. And when we pay attention to that, we tend to move um, much more easily, fewer challenges or difficulties, I think. And it's not that the challenges aren't there, it's just that we go over those bumps in the road a little easier than we might have in the past. So imagine for a moment that you're walking through the woods at night with a flashlight. The beam only shows you a few feet ahead. You can't see the entire forest. You can't see the end of the trail. You can only see the next few steps. But here's the beautiful thing. When you walk those steps, the light moves with you. Yeah. And suddenly you can see a little further. Well, that's how life works. Clarity often comes after movement, not before it. One of the things I've heard lots of people say over and over is, I'll believe it when I see it. But here's the thing, until you believe it, you're not going to see it. See, it's our beliefs that manifest. What we believe about ourselves, what we believe about life, that's what's being created. So we need to switch that around and know that movement has to happen. So clarity often comes after movement, not before it. So why do we resist trusting the next step? We don't like change much, do we? Well, usually it's because of fear. So fear says, what if it doesn't work? What if I fail? What if I make the wrong decision? However, what if it's, what if what's going on is causing me some challenge, or, what's next? What do I do? How do I fit? Why? We ask all these questions, of which none of them have an answer, but spiritual wisdom offers another perspective. And it says there is no wasted step. Every experience teaches us something. Every choice shapes us. Even the steps that seem like detours often become the most important parts of our journey. And I have a story about that, a personal story, which I may have shared at another time. But when I got into ministry and I started taking classes, I knew day one that I was going to become a minister. I was really clear about that. And when I told my teacher that, she just kind of looked at me and went, yeah, right. I think probably many people had told her that and it didn't happen, but I was really clear. And I decided that I would start a center here in Toronto. When I graduated, somehow that wasn't occurring. And I ended up being hired in Vernon, BC, to be the minister of their spiritual center. And when I went there, I was like, wow, this is such a surprise. I still had the dream for Toronto, but I was moving into British Columbia, on the opposite side of the country. And I sat there and I was like, oh, well, and I was there and I was doing the work and loving it and having a good time. And then I guess it was March of 2000, March of 2000, I got this loud message from the universe, time to move to Toronto. And so I did. Now, I moved here after this, what appeared like a detour, right? I was planning on coming to Toronto, but I went from Calgary, which is in Alberta, to British Columbia, which is further west, and then to come all the way east to Toronto. Feels like that's a weird detour, but here's the thing. You don't know what you don't know. And after I'd completed my ministerial training, yes, I was ready to get to work, but I didn't know how to run a church. I didn't know how to run a spiritual center. I didn't know how to do that work because they don't teach you that part. They teach you, the spiritual stuff, the stuff that's in keeping with our specific our specific teaching. So that seemed like a very odd detour to go west to come east. But the thing is, I learned so much. In the 18 months I was in Vernon, BC, I learned what it meant to run a spiritual center. I knew what it was to work with volunteers, with staff, and all of it came together quite beautifully. And it was the perfect thing before coming out east. So sometimes we look at those detours and we go, oh, that can't be right. But mark my words, it probably is. Many people can look back on their lives and realize something surprising. What felt like a mistake at the time was actually a turning point. Have you ever had that happen? Right? Something happens and you go, whoa, now I'm off in a different direction. So sometimes life guides us through experience, not around it. Not around it. So that's the whole big thing. So you might, think about that for a minute. Take a moment and, just think about for yourself, when in your life did you take a step without knowing where it would lead? When in your life did you take a step without knowing where it would lead? Well, I flew to Toronto with $40 in my pocket, a one-way plane ticket to Hamilton, which is about an hour and a half, kind of southwest of us. 2 suitcases of summer clothes. I came in July. My laptop. Now that might seem foolish because I flew into Oakville. I didn't fly into Toronto. And a friend of mine picked me up there. I had one friend who lived in Oakville. She picked me up in Hamilton and drove me to Toronto. And when I got here, someone had offered that I could stay on their sofa. See, the thing is that all of that happened, and it would seem a little bit irresponsible maybe for me to travel across the country with so little. But the vision was so solid. The vision of where I was going and what I was doing was so clear to me that I really wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid at all. And that, for me was a little bit surprising. But I knew it was the right thing to do. And I was here just over a month when I found an apartment. And I think probably about a week or two later, I was hired by one of the city councilors to work in her office at City Hall on a part-time basis while I was setting up the center. All of these things happened. How did they happen? The direction was really clear, and I had held the focus for that direction for 7 years before it actually manifested. And our very first Sunday service in Toronto here had 35 people in attendance. So the things that we think sometimes are a mistake are the things that are going to move us in a way that might really surprise us. So when you think back over your life, maybe it was moving somewhere new or beginning a relationship, starting a new career, or saying yes to something that felt bigger than you. And looking back now, you can see how that particular step changed everything. My life has changed completely since I came here. So sometimes courage isn't about having certainty. Sometimes courage is simply about saying, I'm willing to take the next step. If you're willing to take the next step, something will happen. So, trust is a spiritual practice, okay? Uh, and the next step is rarely obvious, but it is always available. Rarely obvious, but always available. So, trust is not something we suddenly master, it's something we practice. Every day, life invites us to trust a little more, to trust that life is moving somewhere meaningful, that our inner wisdom is guiding us, that even when things are unclear, something larger is unfolding. And trust doesn't mean we always feel confident, because we don't. Trust means we move forward even when we feel uncertain. It means we remember that we're not navigating life alone. There's an intelligence within life itself, a wisdom moving through us and around us. And when we listen closely, it often says something very simple: just take the next step. Just take the next step. Now, it's important that when that next step shows up, we don't want to judge it. We don't want to be critical of it. We don't want to be fearful of it. We want to move through our fear and go, well, this is my next step. This is the thing that's in front of me. So I'm going to do that. And by doing that, we're actually kind of building a bridge in a way. So there's a great metaphor about driving across a long bridge in heavy fog. You cannot see the other side. You can barely see beyond your headlights, but you keep driving, not because you see the destination, but because you trust that the bridge continues. You got that, right? You trust that the bridge continues. And because you trust that the bridge continues, you continue to drive, and eventually you arrive at the other side. Life asks us to do the very same thing. Trust in life. Trust in this divine wisdom within us. Trust that and see where it takes us, because it will take us to marvelous places. Jones Silvertooth. Uh, Thank you so much, Jones. Love that. Love that. It's interesting that the journey that we're on, each and every one of us, is really an opportunity to simply allow life to Testing, testing, testing. All righty. Well, I guess we got that fixed. It's about time. Okay, sorry, folks. That was a little bit of a glitch that I've been having with my sound. So hopefully we're good now. All right. So back to what I was talking about. So the key is, um, the key is that when we're driving through a fog and we don't see the other side, but we know it's there, we trust it. If we begin to trust in this divine energy within us, if we begin to trust in the intelligence that this universe is, what happens is we end up moving forward in really remarkable ways, and life gets easier. Now, again, that doesn't mean there isn't any bumps in the road. It just means we navigate them in a different way because our attitude and everything has changed because we trust the universe. Um, Trust is the courage to move forward when certainty is unavailable. And we know that, certainty is unavailable most of the time, right? So, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take you into a short meditation. And at the end of this meditation, we're going to go into a commercial break. But stick around because there's a lot more information to come. So let us just quiet our minds for a moment. I invite you to just close your eyes if you're comfortable, sit comfortably in your chair, and let's just take a quiet moment together. Take a slow breath in, exhale, another slow breath in, exhale. Now ask yourself gently, what is the next step life might be inviting me to take? What is the next step life might be inviting me to take? Not the whole plan, just the next step. Perhaps it's a conversation. Perhaps it's letting go of something. Perhaps it's saying yes to something that has been quietly calling you. Notice what arises and simply hold it with kindness. Trust your inner wisdom because it already knows. So just sit with this for a moment. Trust that your inner wisdom already knows. It already knows what you need to know. Take a breath in. Exhale slowly. Take another breath in. Exhaling slowly. And when you're ready, gently return, opening your eyes. We just need to remember that life reveals itself one step at a time. We don't get the whole enchilada, right? We get one little bit. We get our next step. So I want you to think about, I'm going to give you a few questions. Um, what is one next step you feel ready to trust right now? It can be something small, it doesn't have to be anything big. And you can share it in the chat if you want. Sometimes speaking a step out loud gives it life. So think about what it is and how important it is to you. And life reveals itself one step at a time. Mm. And here's something to really remember: the same wisdom that created you is guiding you. The same wisdom that created you is guiding you. Yeah. I mean, think about that for a moment, where we came from. We were like a single cell, and two single cells got together, and ta-da, here we are all these years later, fully grown beings from two little cells that are so small we can't see them without a pretty strong microscope. And that's what creates this. But what's back of all that? The intelligence of the universe that brings it all together and brings us into being. hmm Pretty cool. Well, we're going to take a short commercial break now. Don't go away. Come on back. We're going to talk a whole lot more about taking that next step. We'll be right back.
Please help us say thank you to all of our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Center for Spiritual Living United Life, Sunshine Cathedral, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Universal Joy Center, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Home Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. On behalf of New Thought Media Network, thank you, and please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, come be you.
And we're back. You're watching The Joy Show here on the New Thought Media Network. And today we're talking about trusting the next step. And, oftentimes I'll listen to people talking about, well, I need to know what's coming. I need to know what's next. I need to know where my life is headed. Or I make a plan, a very specific plan for my life. And then I'm striving to bring that plan into manifestation. And what we want to do is we want to begin to work within the construct that we live in, which is this universe. Okay? We live, move, and have our being in it. So any part of us is already this divine energy. And I was just looking in the book, Living the Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. And he says, that which needs to be externally changed is not a thing in itself, but a physical state of consciousness. This is the crux of the whole matter. It is the finest of all points in metaphysical practice, and we are metaphysicians. It is the essence of the subject, but unfortunately, it is too often overlooked. The external condition is not a thing, but thought externalized. And thought externalized is still thought. A mental conclusion objectified is still a mental conclusion. So when we are looking at what it means to be a metaphysician or what it means to really take charge of our life, we're talking about surrendering into and trusting the absolute. That's what we're doing. We're allowing ourselves to surrender to a way and a being that allows us to see the truth of who we are and what we possess. You see, each and every one of us came into this life, just the right people. We were who we needed to be in order for the life experience we were to have. And it's not that everything was planned out ahead. It wasn't. We were given free will. So we get to choose what we do, when we do it, how we do it, that sort of thing, and with whom. But the idea is that we are having life moment by moment, and we don't know where it's going or what's happening. We're actually really showing up in a way that is going to assist us in doing the best thing we can for ourselves and for others. Because if it's in our highest and best good, it is in fact for the highest and best good of all. And each one of us is born unique and special. And what we want to do is discover what our unique gift is and give it into the world. That's all we're meant to do. Live your life, live it, and live it authentically. Find your true voice, find your true self, discover who you are. And you might go, well, I know who I am. I'm Barbara. Well, yeah, and that's a label placed on this form, but it doesn't define who I am. I am the I am presence. I am the divine made manifest. And it is operating through me, through my consciousness. And so everything that I'm thinking or doing or being or allowing or noticing is all coming from that consciousness. So in this phrase that we just shared out of the book, the external condition is not a thing, but thought externalized. Now, when we look at the world around us and we see what's already been created, that is the effect. So that's kind of after the fact. And if it's after the fact, then if we want to go back, we have to go back to cause. Okay? So once something is here, it's done. Once an experience has happened, it's happened. I can't change it, alter it, remove it, redo it. I can redo it, but I can't change what has happened. So what is, okay, because it's already created. But if I use my imagination, my curiosity, my wisdom, what I can do then is go, okay, here's what is. Now what? And I can get excited about my next step because there's always a next step. As long as I'm here, as long as I'm drawing a breath, as long as I am on this blue bubble in the middle of the universe, as long as I'm here, I will have a next step to take. And we're just being questioned regularly. What is that next step? Now, we don't know what it is, right? Think about some of the things that have happened in your life that you're like, whoa, where did that come from? Sometimes things happen that shock us, and some of them are really exciting and wonderful, and some of them are quite tragic and difficult. But all of it is taking us to a greater awareness and understanding of our place in the universe. What is my place? What is your place in the universe? And when we talk about oneness, because we talk about that a lot, we are all one. That means just like my arm is a part of all of this, right? We can see that. We know that's true. You and I are also connected. And we're connected through the fact that everything in the manifest world is energy. Now, energy's never been created and will never be destroyed. Energy is simply energy. And it transforms, like when our body dies, for example, we get buried possibly, or we get cremated, and whatever happens then changes the form of the body. If we get put into the ground, eventually the body will decay. Return back. If we weren't in a special vault and box and stuff, that would return to nourish the soil. And that would in turn nourish plants, trees, whatever, which in turn would nourish. You see, there's a cycle that's going on all the time, never stops. Energy constantly moves. It constantly moves. It constantly moves. But it doesn't stop or start. It's just in motion. So think about that the next time you're thinking about where you're going or what's coming next or what's coming up. He goes on to say in here, if we can understand that objective nature is a thing of thought, a divine language, still plastic in the imagination of its conceiver, we shall know how to liken the laws of nature to the laws of thought. For this a metaphysician must do. So we're always weighing things out. We're always looking at what is and allowing ourselves to be with it. And at the same time, acknowledging that it is the reflection, basically. It's like a shadow, right? We know how the shadow is formed, right? The sun shines, and because my body is blocking that sun, behind me will form a shadow. Well, when I have a thought and I bring that into manifestation, the manifestation basically is kind of a shadow. And it will change. Everything changes. Now, one of the things I've noticed about human beings, myself most especially, it's easy to see what I'm doing sometimes, is that we're often looking at the world out here and going, I want to change that. But we can't change what's already done. We can change moving forward. We can change what we create next. But we can't change what's been created already. And if this is making sense, great. And if not, please put something in the chat and let me know that you're kind of stumbling with it a little bit and not sure where it's going. We're living life in a remarkable way. And if you listen to a mystic talk, they're very ethereal in their conversation. They're not, they don't seem to be solid on solid ground or solid footing. But what's fascinating is they're living harmoniously with this universal energy. And it is in that harmony that they're creating something exquisite. There's moments in life when we have these epiphanies or this full-on awareness. I remember writing a poem years ago, and it probably took me, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes to type it up. Not because it was super short, but because it was a download. Like I received it fully formed. And what I realized from that poem was that I had really struggled with who I am and what I do and how I do it. And so I was really, really struggling with, how do I live life? What do I do? What would make it good? What would make it better? Um, there was a whole bunch of things going on that I really, wasn't sure how to change or how to fix or whatever the case may be. But the journey that we're on, each and every one of us, is to find our own path. Now, no one knows what it is that you are meant to do, to be, to have. Only you do. But you may not realize that you already know that. See, you would realize it if, in fact, you were, paying attention. But sometimes we don't see ourselves as what we really actually are, which is unfortunate because we'll be judgmental or critical. But oftentimes that comes from, things that were said to us when we were a child or, the things that we believe about ourselves when we're little. So I'm going to share the poem with you. This was a poem I wrote at the start of my spiritual journey. This is when I started. Um, I'd been exploring for a little bit, but I just found Science of Mind and was just starting the metaphysics. And I wrote this poem. It's called I See. I see a warm and loving soul filled with kindness, beauty to behold, and yet it is denied. I see strength beneath the shell, and yet weakness prevails. And so much of what must be, I see so much of what must be, and yet I try to communicate this view I hold, and it's disbelieved. I see you, friend, with loving eyes, the eyes that cannot lie. I see you, friend, powerful and strong. I see you, friend, beautiful and kind. I see you, friend, warm and true. Why is it you cannot see it too? I see the story of lives long past, but what can they mean? History is viewed, remembered. We learn from history too. I see the pain of dreams bypassed. I see the wishes that dwindle to ash. I see the hopes you no longer believe. The answer, my friend, is in your eyes. If only you could face your fear and see. The greatest fear of all is the fear of what will set us free. I see you, my friend, with loving eyes, the eyes that cannot lie. Turn your sight within and view with loving eyes. You too will see the beauty that lies within you. When I wrote that poem, and I wrote that poem probably in 1993, I'm thinking. It was a long time ago anyway. Um, at that time, my self-esteem was pretty low. I was quite unhappy with life overall, and I'd gone through a lot, abusive marriages and, difficult challenges of different sorts. But what I didn't see in that poem, which I only recognized a couple of years ago, was I was talking about myself. It was like the wisdom of me was seeing the part of me that thought I was broken. And it was like I was looking at myself and coming to realize that if only I could look within instead of out here, I would begin to see the woman that I really am and begin to live from that place of being. So sometimes we do things or we think things. We're talking, I wrote that over 30, oh my gosh, 30 years ago. Really? Yeah. Wow. Okay. So that's a long time ago. Feels like yesterday to me, but what can I say? But that poem helped me, as I reflect on it now, it spoke about where I was in the moment, but it also spoke of the potential that I wasn't seeing. And the reason I didn't see it was because I was believing the stories I was told as I was growing up. I was believing the stories I was told as a young person. I was believing the, shut up, you talk too much. And I was believing that nobody wants to listen to you. And, oh, go to your room. You're too loud. You're too noisy. Um, there was just a lot of negativity that was going on in my life. And so I was squashing who I was so I could fit into the life that my family would be most comfortable with. I'm not sure we ever got to comfort, but we definitely got through the worst of it. When we begin to see ourselves for who we truly are, we begin to see that essence. We begin to see that part of us that is perfect, whole, and complete. Not our behaviors, our essence. Our behaviors come from thoughts and beliefs and attitudes and things we were taught or trained to believe, but that doesn't make it all true. Just because somebody told me something doesn't mean it's true. It just means that they told me something. And I can believe it or not. My choice. And what people think about us is frankly none of our business. So when we're looking at taking that next step, that leap into a new career or starting a new relationship or restarting a relationship from that for that matter, whatever we're doing it from a place of consciousness. Is that consciousness love or fear? If we're coming from love, we would have the courage and strength to move through what was being said or done. But when we're coming from fear, we can get really caught up in it and it can trip us up big time, where we're all of a sudden falling all over ourselves trying to figure out what to do next. But it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be like that. Life can be easy. I, was talking to a friend a while ago and we were chatting about life in general and they were sharing with me stories of transformation that they've gone through and I thought, wow, that is so beautiful. And yet sometimes we hide the transformations we're going through. We hide where we were because we think people will think less of us. Well, so what if they do? What people think of you is none of your business. I'm serious about that. Because what I think about another person comes from my consciousness, from my awareness, from my understanding, right? It is my judgment on the person. It's how I'm viewing them. It doesn't make it true or right or real. It's just my opinion. But we don't remember that sometimes when somebody's in our face saying, you can't do that. Remember that time when you tried to do something and it didn't work? Well, you can't try now. Well, it's been 20 years since that happened. Doesn't matter. If it didn't work then, it won't work now. Really? Really? Electric cars were first around, oh my gosh, in the 70s, I think, in California. But somehow they never really made it anywhere. And now we see them everywhere. It's like society had to catch up with what was going on around us and begin to see the value of an electric vehicle. But when they first came out, it was like, whatever. We kind of liked our big gas guzzlers, and so we stuck with that. The journey we're on is the journey to live. I'm not here to put in time. I mean, we can. I know people who do it. I know people who, put in time and, they're waiting for retirement or they're waiting for something to happen, waiting to have a child, waiting to get married, waiting to get engaged, waiting to graduate school, waiting to get a new job, waiting to retire from that job, waiting, 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 waiting. But if we trusted the next step, we would do a lot less waiting. We would be able to move from one step to the next with an effortlessness. And, I remember years ago watching the movie Forrest Gump. And, it's a lovely illustration of trusting the next step. Because if you think back to that movie, if you've seen it, Forrest Gump always did what was in front of him. Nothing more or less, really, right? It's like, if it's in front of me, it's mine to do. And if he made a promise, he kept it. If he said he was going to do something, he did it. And when he was finished with something, he stopped and went on to the next thing. If all of us could live that way, oh my goodness, how wonderful life would be. But we don't do that. We don't just take the next step. We worry, we fret, we think about it, we plan, we strategize. We talk to our friends, our neighbors, we talk to our parents, our family, our siblings. We talk to everybody on earth going, what should I do? What should I do? And then we do whatever we want to do anyway, regardless of what they say. But we want support. We want people to like our idea. We want people to think, yeah, you're doing the right thing. We want people on our side. Why? That's a question. Why? Why is it so important to us that the other people around us understand our vision and hope and curiosity about life? Why is that? And sometimes it's like um, we'll be moving along and we think we're doing quite well. Like, let's say, standing on stage giving a speech, and it's a great speech, one we've given before. We know it well. We give it perfectly, but there's somebody in the front row just shaking their head back and forth. And meanwhile, the speaker on stage is trying to look beyond that person, look in another direction so they're not distracted, trying to look over them, around them, anything to not look at them. But in trying to not look at them, they end up looking at them almost all the time. Funny how that happens. We try to resist something and it pulls us in. But here's the thing. At the end of that talk, when the speaker was standing there meeting people, that particular individual came up to them and said, "Oh my gosh, I cannot believe I've lived my whole life doing this all backwards. Man, I could have been so much further ahead if I'd just known this." And the whole time he was talking about it, he was shaking his head in the negative and probably not even aware of it. Each one of us is here on this journey, and the journey doesn't have a destination. It isn't a one size fits all. Every one of us has our own path. Every one of us has our own way of doing it, our own way of being fully present in this life experience. And if we could learn to let go of judgment, criticism, that would take us a long way toward arriving at a place of greater comfort and peace. We can do that. We can arrive at a place of comfort and peace. Not someday, but today. We could do that today. So why aren't we? Why do we doubt and fear? As metaphysicians, we know that what we think about, we bring about. What we focus on grows and expands. So why is it that we will allow ourselves to get into a place of fear, doubt, and worry when we know where that will take us? And that brings us back to the idea of trust. We do not trust the universe. Most of us. There's many people who do, but many of us who do not. We don't trust the universe. And because we don't, we will hear that wisdom coming up into our awareness, and we will ignore it time and time again, going, no, didn't work last time, won't work this time. But it's a new idea this time. No, doesn't matter. Tried it once, not doing it again. So we're in a position now where it's time to reflect on what we really want out of life, what really matters to us about life, where it is we want to go with life. Everything is up for us right now to view, to decide, and to make a decision about what we're going to do. And once we make that decision, then everything just flows immediately into bringing it into manifestation. It's pretty positive. It's pretty powerful. So as we come to the end of this show, and once again, my apologies for the problem with my microphone, but as we come to the end of this show, I hope you will think about who you really are, not what label you've got on you or what I don't know, what somebody told you about yourself when you were 4, but I want you to think about who you really, really are and see if you can come up with a real understanding of you. Somebody solid and committed, dedicated, someone who lives fully and with great imagination and curiosity, really excited about life. You know, those people that are really excited about life? I know sometimes they can be annoying, but for the most part, they're kind of fun to be around. Their curiosity and their excitement can be quite attractive. And so we want to put ourselves in that place where instead of resisting life, we're living it. Instead of waiting for the next thing, we're present now. We're looking at the world through new eyes. We're looking at the world with an eagerness that I know something wonderful is happening, and it's happening now. Yes, not later, now, always now. Oh my goodness, what a day, what a day. Well, I am so grateful that you've been here, and I like to leave with one little, mm, one final thought, I guess. And the final thought that I have for today is the importance of trust. Trusting that the universe has got my back, trusting that whatever I need to know or do or whatever, the universe is going to show that to me. Um, it's like the world needs the gift of you right now. There's just one you, and we need you. The world needs you to be who you are and to celebrate that, to show up in a way that's powerful and positive. You can do it. I know you can. I know you can. There's just one you. Are you willing? Are you willing? Well, thank you so much for being here today. I hope something said or done touches you in a positive way. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you're finding New Thought Media Network is a great place to be any day of the week, be sure to check out the upcoming shows, everything that's going on, so that you can be a part of this incredible, positive, metaphysical new thought experience. It's pretty darn powerful. You are magnificent just the way you are. Have a beautiful weekend. Know that you are loved. And I look forward to seeing you again next time when my microphone will be working. Bye for now.